You probably think you know what a big truck looks like. Maybe you imagine a massive mining hauler or a heavy-duty construction rig crawling across a quarry. But once you step into the world of Russian military engineering, everything you thought was big suddenly feels small. In the frozen wastelands of Siberia, across endless forests, swamps, and places where roads simply don't exist, Russia built machines that look less like trucks and more like moving fortresses. These aren't concept vehicles or paper designs. These monsters were built, tested, and deployed in real military operations. And some of them are so massive, so strange, and so powerful that even today they seem almost impossible. You have to understand the problem first. Russia is huge. We're talking about distances so long that supply lines stretch for hundreds of miles through mud, snow, ice, and pure wilderness. During the Cold War, the Soviet military realized something critical. Tanks and missiles meant nothing if you couldn't move them. Railways were easy targets. Roads could disappear under snow overnight. So engineers were given one job: build trucks that don't care where they're driving. Trucks that don't stop. Trucks that can carry the weight of entire missile systems and keep moving like it's nothing. That's how some of the biggest military trucks ever created came to life. And one of the earliest legends to earn its reputation was the KrAZ-255. At first glance, it looks brutal. Tall stance, oversized tires, and a shape that feels more industrial than refined. This truck was built in the 1960s, right in the heart of Cold War tension. The Soviet Army needed something that could haul artillery, bridges, fuel, and troops across terrain where normal vehicles would sink or snap in half. The KrAZ-255 didn't ask questions. It just went. Under the hood was a massive V8 diesel engine. That wasn't about speed. It was about torque. Deep, endless pulling power. You could hear it long before you saw it. A low mechanical growl echoing through forests and valleys. This truck didn't rush. It pushed forward with confidence. Its six-wheel drive system kept all wheels pulling at the same time, and the tires were so large that soldiers could manually lower air pressure to grip mud, snow, or sand. In places where vehicles normally disappeared into the ground, the KrAZ just kept rolling. What made it special wasn't comfort or technology. It was reliability. This truck could freeze overnight and still start in the morning. It could be overloaded, undermaintained, and abused, and it would still do its job. That's why it became a backbone vehicle across the Soviet Union. From Arctic bases to Eastern European forests, it carried everything from radar equipment to mobile bridges. Even today, decades later, some of these trucks are still working in remote areas, long after newer machines have failed. But if the KrAZ was tough, the next machine took things to an entirely different level. The MAZ-537 wasn't just a truck. It was a beast designed to move the heaviest military hardware the Soviet Union had: tanks, aircraft, ballistic missile systems. This thing was born in the late 1950s with one mission: move the unmovable. The engine alone tells you everything you need to know. A massive V12 diesel producing enormous torque. This wasn't about horsepower numbers for bragging rights. It was about dragging 50 tons across mud without hesitation. The MAZ-537 used an 8-wheel drive system, meaning every wheel worked together. Its suspension was built to stay stable even when the load behind it weighed more than the truck itself. When this machine rolled through a base or an airfield, it demanded attention. Nearly 10 meters long, towering wheels, and a cab that sat high above the ground like a watchtower. It often carried main battle tanks or missile launchers that represented the core of Soviet nuclear strategy. In a very real way, this truck carried the Cold War on its back. What makes it even more impressive is where it ended up. After the Chernobyl disaster, modified versions of the MAZ-537 were used to transport radioactive materials and heavy shielding. Vehicles designed specifically for disaster zones struggled. The MAZ didn't. It was simply too rugged to fail. That's when engineers realized they had created something far beyond its original purpose. But Soviet engineers weren't done experimenting. They wanted vehicles that could go where even wheels struggled. Deep snow, swamps, frozen tundra. That's where the Gil E167 enters the story. This thing looks like it came from a science fiction movie. Rounded body, enormous balloon-like tires, and a strange, almost futuristic shape. It didn't just roll over terrain. It floated over it, powered by two gasoline V8 engines working together. The Gil E167 was built for exploration and logistics in extreme environments. Its tires were so tall that they could roll over snowdrifts taller than a person. In swamps, it didn't sink. It spread its weight so evenly that it just glided forward. Engineers tested it in Siberia and Arctic regions where temperatures dropped so low that metal became brittle. One of the most surprising facts about this machine is that it was once considered for a lunar exploration role. The Soviet space program briefly looked at adapting its design for moon surface movement. While that idea never moved forward, it tells you how extreme this vehicle really was. Even today, very few wheeled vehicles can match what it achieved. Decades ago, and just when you think things can't get any bigger, Russia enters a new era. The Soviet Union collapses, but the need for massive military transport doesn't disappear. In the 1990s, Russia needed a new generation of heavy haulers. Stronger, smarter, more stable. That's when the KrAZ-255 came into service. This truck was designed to haul rocket systems, tanks, and massive engineering equipment across broken terrain with precision. This machine feels like a rolling locomotive. A powerful V12 diesel engine, an advanced automatic transmission, and a suspension system designed to keep everything balanced even under extreme loads. It wasn't just raw power anymore. It was control. The cab had modern navigation, communication systems, and room for a full crew. Some versions even included light armor, allowing it to operate closer to conflict zones. Its presence alone was intimidating. Over 11 meters long, wide frame, deep engine sound that echoed across open land. It was used to move heavy rocket launchers and played a crucial role in military construction missions where time and reliability meant everything. And while many people have never heard of it, this truck quietly became one of the most important logistical tools in modern Russian military operations. But here's the thing. Every truck you've heard about so far is just leading up to something even more unbelievable. Because the next machines weren't just big. They were strategic. They were designed to carry weapons that could change the balance of global power. And the next one on this list doesn't just drive across land. It carries history itself. Asterisk when you move from heavy transport into the world of strategic weapons. Everything changes. These trucks aren't just about moving supplies anymore. They're about hiding, deploying, and protecting weapons that entire nations feared. One of the most iconic machines built for that purpose was the MAZ-537. This truck didn't just support military operations. It became the foundation of mobile missile warfare during the Cold War. The MAZ-7310 was enormous even by Soviet standards. 13 meters long, towering over most vehicles on the road, and built around an 8-wheel drive system that distributed weight like nothing else on land. Underneath it all was a massive V12 diesel engine designed to pull payloads exceeding 60 tons without breaking rhythm. This wasn't speed-focused. It moved slowly, deliberately, like a moving wall of steel that nothing could stop. What made the MAZ-7310 special wasn't just size, it was adaptability. This single platform could be transformed into a missile launcher, a radar station, a mobile command center, or a heavy transport for tanks and engineering equipment. The suspension system allowed each wheel to adjust independently, giving it control on snow, sand, mud, and frozen ground. Even in swampy terrain, it stayed stable, carrying weapons that required absolute precision. The most famous role of the MAZ-7310 was as the base for mobile Scud missile launchers. These vehicles allowed missiles to be deployed from unexpected locations, fired, and then moved immediately. That mobility made them incredibly difficult to track or destroy. During the Cold War, this truck became one of NATO's biggest logistical nightmares. You couldn't predict where it would appear next. Even today, some MAZ-7310 units are still operational in remote regions. Stripped of missile systems, they now serve as heavy-duty transport platforms in Siberia, where modern trucks often fail. That kind of longevity is rare, even by military standards. But the Soviets weren't satisfied with just making weapons mobile. They wanted them fast, precise, and almost impossible to detect. That's where the 9K714 OKA system enters the story. This wasn't just a missile. It was a complete mobile strike platform built around speed and concealment. The vehicle carrying the OKA missile was smaller than most strategic launchers, but that was intentional. It used a reinforced chassis paired with a powerful diesel engine that allowed it to move quickly through forests, across uneven terrain, and along narrow routes. Unlike larger missile trucks, this one could hide. It could disappear into tree, cover, relocate within minutes, and strike before anyone realized it was there. The missile itself had a range of up to 400 kilometers, capable of carrying either conventional or nuclear warheads. But the real threat wasn't the missile alone. It was the combination of accuracy, speed, and mobility. The vehicle could launch and move again almost immediately, making counterattacks extremely difficult. During the final years of the Cold War, the OKA system was considered one of the most dangerous tactical weapons in Europe. Its presence forced entire military doctrines to adapt. Eventually, it was retired under arms reduction agreements. Most units were dismantled. But for years after, rumors persisted that some platforms were still used quietly for testing newer systems. Whether those rumors are true or not, the influence of the OKA platform is undeniable. Though as military technology advanced, Russia began shifting toward vehicles that combine raw size with modern electronics. That shift led to the creation of the Kamaz 7850 series. This wasn't just a truck. It was a mobile missile base disguised as a transporter. This machine took everything that came before it and pushed it further. A massive multi-axle platform with all wheels powered, advanced electronic control systems, and a suspension that actively adjusted itself to terrain in real time. Instead of reacting to the ground, it predicted it. Sensors constantly monitored weight distribution, tilt, and traction. The engine delivered power figures that earlier Soviet engineers could only dream of. The transmission wasn't just automatic. It was intelligent. It optimized fuel use, torque delivery, and stability during long-distance missions under full load. And the load itself was staggering. Intercontinental ballistic missiles. The Kamaz platform was designed to carry systems like the KrAZ-255, one of Russia's most advanced strategic weapons. Despite being over 20 meters long, the vehicle could position itself with extreme accuracy for launch operations. It moved quieter than older platforms, used digital navigation, and could operate in environments that would cripple conventional heavy transport. Visually, it looked unreal. A long, flat deck stretching far beyond the cab, massive wheels lined up like a mechanical centipede, and a presence that felt less like a truck and more like a moving installation. This wasn't designed to be seen by civilians. It was designed to exist in forests, remote bases, and hidden routes far from public roads, but wheels still have limits. Snow too deep, ice too fragile, ground too soft. To overcome that, Russian engineers went in a completely different direction. They built a machine that didn't rely on wheels at all. The VTA's DT-30. This vehicle was designed for environments where nothing else could survive. Arctic tundra, frozen lakes, deep snowfields. Instead of one body, it used two articulated sections connected by a flexible joint. The front held the engine and cab. The rear carried massive cargo loads. Together, they moved like a single living machine. Powered by a strong diesel engine, the VTAs used continuous tracks instead of wheels. That gave it unmatched traction and weight distribution. It could carry up to 30 tons while floating over snow and ice that would swallow normal vehicles. Even more impressive, it could cross frozen lakes without breaking through. The articulation allowed it to turn smoothly despite its length, almost like a train bending through terrain. Inside, the cab was insulated, heated, and designed to keep crews alive in temperatures below -50 degrees Celsius. It wasn't just transportation. It was survival. The Russian military used the VCHAs to supply Arctic bases, install communication towers, and move weapons and equipment across regions no wheeled vehicle could reach. In a time when control of the Arctic is becoming more important, this machine remains one of the most capable platforms ever built for extreme cold operations. But even after all of that, there is still one machine that stands above the rest. One vehicle that pushed engineering so far ahead of its time that even today it feels unreal. It wasn't just big. It was revolutionary. And it didn't use a normal engine at all. The final giant isn't just a truck. It's a legend. Asterisk, to understand the next machine, you have to forget everything you know about trucks. Forget engines connected to wheels by simple mechanical systems. Forget normal suspensions and drivetrains. What Soviet engineers built in the 1980s was so advanced that even decades later, parts of it still feel futuristic. This was the MAZ-537, and it remains one of the most ambitious land vehicles ever created. The MAZ-907 was designed for one purpose: carry the heaviest ballistic missiles the Soviet Union could produce while remaining mobile, stable, and nearly impossible to track. This wasn't about transport convenience. It was about survival in a nuclear standoff. If fixed launch sites were destroyed, these mobile giants ensured retaliation was still possible. At first glance, the MAZ-907 doesn't even look like a truck. It's long, extremely long, nearly 30 meters from front to back. The cab is narrow and stretched forward, while the body behind it looks more like a moving rail platform than a vehicle. Underneath, there are 24 wheels arranged across 12 axles. And here's where things get truly strange. Instead of a traditional engine driving the wheels mechanically, the MAZ-907 used a gas turbine engine similar to what you'd find in a helicopter. That turbine didn't drive the wheels directly. It generated electricity. Each wheel had its own electric motor. That meant power could be delivered independently to every wheel, allowing precise control over traction, movement, and balance. This system allowed something almost unheard of at the time: active electronic suspension. The truck could adjust its height, tilt, and load distribution in real time. If one side encountered soft ground, the system compensated instantly. If the terrain shifted, the platform corrected itself. This level of stability was necessary because the payload could exceed 150 tons. Driving this machine was unlike anything else. Instead of mechanical feedback, operators relied on electronic systems to manage movement. The sound wasn't a deep diesel roar. It was a strange, high-pitched hum mixed with electric motor noise. Witnesses described it as unsettling, like something not meant to exist on land. Despite its size, the MAZ-907 could move across uneven terrain with surprising smoothness. It was tested at secret facilities far from public roads. Engineers were reportedly shocked by how well it performed. But complexity has a price. The vehicle was incredibly expensive, difficult to maintain, and over-engineered for large-scale production. By the time it was ready, military doctrine was changing. New missile systems didn't require such massive carriers. The Soviet Union itself was nearing collapse. The MAZ-907 never entered full production. Only one prototype survived. Today it sits preserved, watched closely, a reminder of what happens when engineers are told to ignore limits. But Russia's obsession with extreme terrain never faded. As the world focused on deserts and urban warfare, Russia kept investing in cold weather dominance. That brings us back north, far north, to environments so hostile that metal cracks and fuel turns thick like oil. In those places, logistics mean everything. That's why the VCHAs family of vehicles continued to evolve. Newer versions expanded on the original articulated design, increasing payload capacity, reliability, and endurance. These machines weren't flashy. They didn't carry missiles or nuclear warheads. But without them, entire Arctic bases would simply stop functioning. Imagine driving across endless white nothingness. No landmarks. No roads. Temperatures that kill exposed skin in minutes. The VTS moves steadily, its tracks gripping snow and ice while distributing weight so evenly that it barely leaves a trace. It carries fuel, food, radar systems, and construction materials to places that might as well be another planet. What makes these vehicles special isn't just engineering. It's philosophy. Russian military design has always prioritized function over comfort, durability over elegance. These trucks are tools built to survive abuse, neglect, and environments that would destroy civilian machinery almost instantly. And that philosophy shows up again and again. From older Soviet trucks still running in forests to modern platforms carrying the most advanced weapons. On Earth, many of these vehicles were never meant to be seen. No parades. No marketing, just silent movement through remote areas, doing their job without attention. That's why so many people are shocked when they finally see them. When photos leak, when prototypes are revealed, when old machines are restored and displayed. These aren't just vehicles. They're physical proof of an entirely different approach to military engineering. They were designed for a world where roads don't matter, where failure isn't an option, and where mobility can decide the fate of nations. Every bolt, every axle, every system serves a purpose. And sometimes that purpose was terrifying. But here's the most surprising part. Many of these giants are still relevant today. Not because they're fast or modern, but because nothing else can replace them. You can't shortcut physics. If you need to move 70 tons through snow, you need something massive. If you need stability under extreme load, you need size. Even as drones and satellites dominate headlines, these trucks quietly remain essential. They build bases. They move weapons. They support operations in places that satellites can't land and drones can't survive.